Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
7-foot cryptid owl encountered near Lake Michigan. I live in the U.S. Midwest, 30 miles from Lake Michigan. I don't scare easy or believe in much unexplained, but there's definitely an undiscovered species of giant gray owl that cut through the neighborhood and woods where I used to live. I later assumed it migrates because I staked out the spot for a month afterwards, armed and with a night vision camcorder, hoping to prove what I had told a few people. A few believed me because I'm not a BSer, and I'm also willing to help people. The first time I was told about something strange in this area, I didn't believe it myself. It happened in the very same spot I saw this owl. I really didn't care for the person that said he'd seen a 4-foot owl, so I dismissed it completely and enjoyed making fun of him when he'd bring it up. I grew up in the area and was more of an outdoorsman than most adults. My grandfather taught me skills other kids didn't get. He was a WW2 survivor, and as a teenager he was enlisted by his mother. He made me tough as nails, hoping something like that wouldn't happen to me. A friend and I were cutting through the same patch of woods that divides to a dead-end street with lots of acres of woods. We were halfway through this patch of woods, not saying much, then we hear a raccoon scurry away. It was loud because it was early spring. No leaves were on the tree, and last year's leaves were laying on the forest floor. It was dark, but our eyes had adjusted by then. I'm walking ahead when I first hear what sounded like a heavy person jump off a wood diving board. I stopped walking, looking and listening for the source. About 10 yards ahead and about 20 feet up in a full-grown oak tree, this branch is whipping like something very heavy had jumped off. Reaching in my pocket to see if I even had a pocket knife, which I did not. I looked back at my buddy real quick to tell him the first thing that came to mind, which was that it was probably a bobcat. He rolled his eyes at me, turned back to scan the ground. Then out of the corner of my eye, while looking down, I see something diving from the tree. In disbelief, this huge owl is standing in front of us. I'm 6'1", and this owl was pushing 7 feet plus, with outward curving ears. It had dull yellow eyes the size of baseballs with 3/4-inch thick black rings around the eyes, almost the size of volleyballs. That's how big its head was. The chest looked like somebody took a sheet of silver and shredded it into shavings. These were the strangest feathers I've ever seen. I was mesmerized by the sight. My legs didn't work for the first time in my life. I must have been in shock. The owl was within 8 to 10 feet of grabbing me. My legs slowly started to work and I began to scramble backward, not wanting to take my eyes off the owl. I bumped into a large tree, then quickly got behind it. If I would have had a gun on me, I would have taken a shot at it. It backpedaled like a hummingbird, but sounded like a helicopter blade in the distance with no engine noise. It came around the tree to get me as I positioned myself in order to avoid it. I remember not wanting to take my eyes off it just in case it came back after me. I was looking for a log I could swing if it did come back. I never looked at my friend's reaction. I told him to find a big stick also, but he kept tapping my shoulder from behind, telling me to look at something. I remember being kind of pissed, thinking to myself that this was more important. I finally did turn to him and noticed what looked like 6 or more baby owls in the tree, each about 3 foot in height. That was it. We ran like hell and got away. I felt fortunate that we got out of there in one piece. JF.
Eight-foot owl-like cryptid encounter. I can't tell you what it was that I saw that day, but I can describe it. I lived in Skykomish, Washington for a couple years and had a big curiosity in Sasquatch. I've had a couple experiences in that field, but this was different. Out for a walk with my dog one afternoon and turned to see something watching us from behind an embankment. It looked as if it was trying to look like a tree stump. In fact, it did at first. I stopped and stared at this thing for a good 30 seconds with my glasses on. It had owl-type features. It was huge though. The head of it that was sticking up from behind this embankment was the size of a large old-growth tree stump. I was close to this thing, about 20 feet away, and I could see its eyes were closed, but squinting to see me, and they almost looked sloth-like. It had designs that were a cross between bark lines and owl pattern lines. I felt no fear at all. I was looking at it and said, "What the hell is that?" out loud. My dog didn't notice it. After a bit I looked down and stepped forward to actually get a better look, not feeling any threat. When I looked back up, it was gone. I stood there for a minute, then got a little spooked and went back home. I went back to that spot and would stand there every day looking for whatever it might have been I saw that day. I went behind the embankment one time and sized it up to be about 6 feet tall, so whatever I saw was about 7.5 to 8 feet tall I estimate. A lot of super loud deep owl calls around the area. A lot of Sasquatch. I believe there are other undocumented creatures as well. I have some photos of a few odd things, but did not have my camera on me that day. Mike.
Red-eyed winged humanoid feigned attack during encounter at O'Hare International Airport. I had just gotten off of work, FedEx facility on June 30, 2020, and was walking with my friend toward the parking lot to go home. As we walked we saw something fly over us. At first it looked like a huge owl, but it was solid black. The thing flew over us, and then landed by the edge of the parking lot, and was just standing here. We again thought it was an owl until this son of a bitch stood up, and was standing about 7 feet tall. My friend shrieked, and that's when this thing turned around. We saw 2 glowing red eyes, that looked like it belonged to the devil himself. That's when we both screamed, and this demon spread his wings out and lunged at us, while screeching at us. It sounded like a bunch of little girls all screaming at once, and was the scariest thing I have ever heard. We ran for my car and this thing acted like it wanted to come after us as we ran to the car. It took a step in our direction before it took off into the air, and was out of sight in about 3 seconds. We could still hear it screeching as it flew off into the night sky. I can tell you that I never felt so scared, and all but pissed myself from fright. I thank the Lord for watching over us, and not letting that thing attack us, or drag us off to hell.
Large bat-winged creature in Lebanon, Ohio. I don't know how exactly you guys function, but I saw an article about a large black-winged creature that flew without flapping its wings, and I have seen something like that before. It was at my old house. I no longer live there and don't know if it would still be around, but what I saw only came around at night. It was huge and blacker than the night sky. It never really moved, but when I looked away and back again it would be gone. I am also very convinced I saw a shadow person while I still lived at the old house, though it was only once, and I haven't seen one before or since that incident. It walked just like a normal person, but as it moved it gave off black smoke. It had no eyes that I could see, which I have done research on shadow people, and know that that is a bit different than what others report. But the experience was overall the same as what is typically reported. My current house seems to be haunted to some degree though. I've seen what looks like a woman, though only once, but I've felt her, or something else, multiple times. I never hear voices and for the most part I am left alone, but every once in a while I get a bit more activity than usual. Like something in the basement getting knocked over, but when I go to look for it, nothing is out of place. Or when I was walking through my dining room I felt a strong presence right behind me, on my heels, but when I turned around nothing was there. I live in Ohio, but the article said something about Illinois. I was really looking for some advice or insight as to what I may be dealing with or what I was dealing with while at my old residence. Thank you for your time, LB.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.